Hello, hello, hello. How are you doing? I'm glad you are back here with me for another episode of VX Joe's Witness. That is me. I am Mitch. I am he. It's been a busy, busy week. Uh, man, I set up excuse me, on social media and on most social media platforms. You can follow me at XJDub, EXJDUB. But on most of those platforms, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, um, there is a great community of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. We get bothered by I'm going to be nice because I just ran it on someone on TikTok. There are witnesses that will pop up on our post and just makes stupid ass comments. And because of that, um, I made a couple of private communities. So on Facebook, I have a private Facebook group, and it's the XJW Network. So the EXJW Network, that's a private group on Facebook. I also this week built a website for us, same name, the xjwnetwork.org. And I made that to have like a special community for us. What's special about that website is we have a discussion forum, and you request to be in that forum, and I approve the guests that come. So it's like our own private community. It's a lot of ex-J Dubs that was really reaching out to me, saying they like the community that I was making on, like TikTok and Instagram, YouTube. They like that sense of community but wanted more, and so that's why I made those. So I have been busy this week just trying to fine tune everything. In addition to still posting, still blasting the governing body for the crap they do, still blasting the helpers that help the governing body lie like they do, and trying to help people along the way, namely witnesses who show up, and some are genuinely they're curious, they have questions, or they feel they're stuck and can't get out. So I'm not mean to all active witnesses, but yeah, I hope you've been having a great week. Something that came up yesterday on one of my friends' posts on TikTok, and it just kind of made me think, and it made me reminisce. And I posted a little bit about it, like just under a 3-minute video today, and put it on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram. But it's basically, I was saying that I feel, and from being around the organization for over 50 years, I feel that most witnesses are narcissists, especially the elders. And so, when you talk about the narcissists, usually, the first thing they do is love bomb, draw you in. And once you're drawn in, then, gradually they're showing you who they really are. And that's like how the witnesses are. They key in on people that really, really need them in their life at that time. In fact, some of you, the old heads on here, will remember, like when we used to do the kingdom ministry and the kingdom service, they used to always key in on that. Really, really approach people or try to give them the good news when they've had a life-altering experience or a change of life, they used to call it. But, they meant a divorce, a death in the family, something like that. And so they reel people in, love bomb them, and gradually that organization show, who they truly are. And that's like, I've seen them over the years, different congregations I've been in. It feeds a narcissistic environment. It's like people get off on the power, namely the elders, most of their wives. They get off on the power. I'm laughing because that's been a running joke the last few weeks about our beloved elder wives. And you get, they relish in that power that they have, the power they think they have. And then it's just always this aura of like they're better than everyone else, not only to the world and other religions, but within the organization, within the Jehovah's Witness organization. You have that too. People on comments and on the stage, platform, they want to tell you how loving that organization is and how unified it is, how caring it is, non-partial. All of that sounds great on paper and from the platform, but in reality, most witnesses are narcissists, and they, it's like, what can they get out of it? A lot of friends in that religion, and I'm still, sometimes I slip and still use terms, but a lot of people in that cult, it wasn't like everyone hung out with everyone. Usually it was like cliques or, big families. They kind of kept to themselves and, would always do things with each other. The elders, this is something I mentioned earlier today too. Most of the elders hung around you if they felt they could get something out of it, or if you had some type of status within the organization, or if you were financially well off. And I know, like, a lot of people don't want to hear that, but that is just a freaking reality that needs to set in. If you haven't witnessed that, or if you don't understand that fact about the Jehovah's Witness organization, they kiss a lot of ass if you have money. And so, yeah, it's like they wouldn't even hang out with certain individuals within the congregation when they're on the stage still telling us that we need to become familiar with everyone in the congregation. When persecution comes, who are you going to have to turn to? You don't want to try to get to know people at persecution and during persecution. You should already know them, as a family member, as a brother or sister to you. That's how much love you should have for this person, even now. But like the sad reality, they don't practice what they preach. The elders, they didn't all hang with everyone in the congregation. Most of them I knew didn't even they barely want to hang with people who they didn't consider in the little in crowd that they had, which is sad. And I'm just they call me an empath. Like, that's the type of person I am. I usually lean towards helping people and hearing their story. I feel bad if circumstances aren't going a particular way for a person. And so I try to help them. I will go out of my way to show people that I really cared. I really listened to them. It was elders that would just the basic crap just to show their face, and then they're on their way. Hey, how you doing? Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah, we got to get together soon. And, off they go, talking to their little cliquish friends. But I would make it I had things to do before meeting, like setting up the meeting, but I would still try my best to take the time to show people that I cared. Like, it's nothing that infuriates me more than someone who asks me how I'm doing, and you can barely get the answer out, and they're changing the subject, or they're like trying to walk away from the conversation. So I would try to, let people know that I hear you, like I'm with you, and that sort of attitude honestly didn't go far. It didn't go well within that organization. It is a bunch of narcissists who just look out for themselves mainly, and it's sad because everything that we're taught and all the stuff, we read over and how we're striving to be, if we're being, in this true religion in the world, like totally opposite of what's truly displayed. And I've had Bible studies, and I might not have studied with them personally, but they were, studies associated with our congregation, and they would express to me that's how they felt. That's sad. Like, that's the ugly truth of how it is. And, you know, remember when I'm like telling my experiences or I'm recalling how things were, it's not me being bitter or bashing. It's me being transparent because there are people who are listening that need to know the truth. Because you meet the average witness, they're going to put the best foot forward, out in the ministry, or if you all work together or something like that. I'm trying to be as transparent as I can for people. And the crazy thing about it is, like, you may hold these positions within an organization. You may be an elder. You may be a ministerial servant. You may be a pioneer. You may give a lot of meeting parts. You may give talks on the circuit level. You may give talks at regional conventions. The overseer of a department. All this feeds into their narcissistic mind. They're like, look at me, this is what I do. What I always found weird, um, at conventions and assemblies, they would announce, they announced the brother who's giving the part. I've always thought they should be like, for our next part, Brother Wright. Brother Wright walks up and gives his part. But instead, what do they do at assemblies and conventions? Next to give our part is Brother So-and-so. He currently serves as Kobe. And like they just give this list. They rattle off a list of like the things that they do. And to me, y'all can let me know how you feel, but to me, that just inflates a person's ego. That inflates their mind, and before long, they're believing it like, oh man, like I'm the shit. You see all the things I do, all the sacrifices I make. And so they get these egos and attitudes, and yeah, they may be someone that's used heavily in the congregation or the circuit or the regional conventions. But most of the time, when they step out of that kingdom hall, when they step out of the Jehovah's Witness world, they are just the average, non-important, no title having, just normal Joe Schmo. Like they're nobody when it comes to the real world. But as soon as they step in that hall, their chin lifts up and their chest puffs out, and they're like a freaking peacock walking around the kingdom hall or the assembly or the convention. And I always thought that was like sad, unfortunate. it goes against everything that they're taught on what to be like. When you have attitudes like that, it trickles down into different aspects of your life. I've seen a lot of elders who did not talk kindly to their wife and or children. In fact, some of the children coming up, they were my friends, my peers as we were teenagers. And a lot of them told me, they would confide in me, like, I don't know who that person is that's up on the platform, but I know who he is at home. And, some would say, all he does is yell at home. All he does is like belittle us. He treats my mom this way. He treats us that way. But at the Kingdom Hall, he was like, a freaking knight in shining armor. And, being a teenager, that surprised me. It truly caught me off guard, but it taught me at an early age, like how looks can be deceiving within the organization and how people truly are. And that's just a sad fact. Like, someone on my TikTok, sometimes we just reminisce about different things that we had to do. The book study came up. How many of y'all remember the book study arrangement? But, like we're talking about that and comments back and forth, but one of them was relaying a story on how he sounded like just an asshole of a person, but this elder who was the conductor, um, she said his ego was just off the chain. And he had to make you feel small, which is what a lot of them do. And sometimes she said, how they'll ask the question that's written in the publication that we're studying, but then they'll ask supplemental questions. She said he would get upset that no one raised their hands, or is that all you all have? And, just express like how he felt that they weren't doing enough. And, I'm reading what she's writing. I'm like, yeah, that's how a lot of them are, And she said he had a real soft-spoken, meek wife, just a nice lady. And she said one night in the study, he was getting something wrong that was plainly written in the book. And it was, from the Genesis account, plain as day, written in there. And so when they're answering, the question is, the answer is from the publication, he's telling them they're wrong. And he's telling what he thinks is the right answer. And she said they're all just sitting there like looking at their publication, looking at him. They're confused as hell. And she said his wife slowly raised her hand. And she was like, well, no, the correct answer is here. Read the correct answer. She said he was livid, finished the study early even. I felt bad because I told her, my friend who was telling us this, I said, I feel like when they got home, it was probably not a very good time for her. I'll go on a limb and say that ride home was probably hell, And like I've seen it. I've seen elders and ministerial servants snap at their spouse or their children, but then they turn around and they're smiling in other people's face, or they're up on the stage giving a freaking talk about families, about family life, and like the hypocrisy is real. And again, my disclaimer, I'm not saying all elders or all ministerial servants or all people associated with that cult. I'm not saying they are all narcissistic. I'm just saying for a high majority of people, they are. And like I said, I always try to be transparent. And I would like to think I'm a fair person because even if I'm on uh, TikTok or Instagram or Reddit in the ex Jehovah's Witness community and I see an ex witness might make an outlandish claim or something that I just know it's not right, it's not true, like I'll speak up because I want people to have an accurate idea before they just like hear all these slanted stories and make a decision. I would rather a person know like the full truth, then make an informed decision if you want to stay with that cult or not. But yeah, I'm just telling you what I have seen for over 50 years, being transparent with you. Um, and that's another reason that I never wanted to be an elder. I had a joke, a long running joke with my wife and kids, and I told them I was probably the longest tenured ministerial servant. It was just reasons that I did not want to be an elder, and like some of it, I felt it was shady about how elders had to move about predators within the congregation. I felt if I became an elder, it would, and this my words, I would turn into an asshole because I've seen how brothers have progressed. And, as a publisher, they're a nice, loving brother. As a ministerial servant, still nice and loving, but you can kind of see some asshole traits popping up. And then they would get appointed elder, and then the full asshole would come out. And so I'm just like, well, damn, like they were pretty cool beforehand. Like I just don't want to become an elder and slowly morph into that. And yeah, that was a huge reason. I didn't want to. I had I was reaching all my goals as a ministerial servant. Like I did a lot in the organization. And I didn't feel being an elder would have just like afforded me the opportunity to do a few more things, like give like actual talks at circuit assemblies or conventions, or be the actual overseer, over a department. It also would mean that I would have to, like, one day be in like a committee meeting or something, and I just didn't want to do that. Like, I just know me and certain things I didn't agree with, and I knew I would be the odd one out. Like, if it if I'm at a committee meeting and I'm not agreeing with something, or I feel like they're not being treated fairly, or I just know something is wrong, like I'm gonna speak up. So I never wanted to be one. Now, don't get me wrong, I had elders that I respected. You know, uh, I used to call him my freaking father. I used to call him Abraham because it's like he was so patient with everyone. And you asked him one day, I was young, I can't remember how old, and I'm just like, do you ever mess up? Like, do you sin? And he looked at me like I was crazy. He was like, I'm imperfect, of course I sin. And I just told him it seems like he always know the right thing to say. He always know the right thing to do. He that's what he'll do. And yeah, like I respected oh, quite a few elders, but yeah, a lot of them, they were just pompous, narcissistic assholes. That's the best way I could put it. And man, the hypocrisy too would get me. Um, the hypocrisy with a lot of the elders. And I touched on it already. Like maybe in a family life, they're saying one thing different on the stage, but then it's translating into something else in real life. But another thing that would get me too is like the conduct. You can't be on congregation members about things they're doing and conduct when you're doing like shady shit yourself. And I'll never forget, like where I come from, and there were large metropolitan areas, and like not only elders but the ministerial servants, you had to be a certain way. Like you had to be about your business, just on point. In fact, a lot of people would comment about how hard I worked at my different responsibilities. And like I would tell them, that's even elders were saying that. And I'm like, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. Like where I come from, that's how a ministerial servant, that's what's expected of them. But where I moved now, there are just a lot of different type elders. I'll put it like that. Never forget the first congregation I was going to, me and my family, after I got reinstated in the state I'm in now. And it's supposed to be like a check-in. I've been reinstated, but you know how they gradually stair step the privileges that you can receive. So, they tell me I've been doing great. We gave you your first privilege back. So now, like, you're still doing great. Keep up the great work, and gave me another, set of privileges. So I'm, okay, I'm happy. That means I'm progressing, doing what I said I would do. And while we're still in the back room, one of them was like, "Hey, you want to see something funny?" And he pulls his phone out. Two elders, mind you, pull his phone out and like starts to show a video like that he got on social media. And we're in the Kingdom Hall. It's after a meeting. And the video he's showing us is supposed to be like, for comedy. But they are like dropping major curse words in there. And I'm like, not to say I'm a prude and that I never did wrong, but I just had a certain level of respect, um, not only for God, but just, for where we're at. We're at the hall and you're supposed to act a certain way. And so that's kind of like, that let me know very quickly where I was, like the type of people I was dealing with. And, they just carried themselves differently. Love to drink. Where I'm at now, I have not been around elders before that love to drink like where I live now. Nothing at all is wrong with drinking. But what do they teach? In moderation. Drinking in moderation is okay for a Jehovah's Witness. Was it always in moderation with them? No. But they felt, if we were in this small environment with, friends that they felt they could trust, then I guess they felt they could kind of let their hair down more. And so that always bothered me too. And, you think about what does that do to someone? Maybe someone who's either new in the truth or someone who's reaching out to do more, and they see an elder acting this way. That just puts, in that mindset quietly, like, oh, I can do that too. I can be one way at the hall, but I can do what I want to do if I'm around trusted people. One of the things that really got to me, me and my family, we're at like bunch of families are over, and it's like um, a barbecue dinner type of thing. And I'm sitting at a table with my family, and we're talking to people who are close to us, um, at the table with us. I'm just in a laid back mood, and this pioneer sister, I can hear her getting mouthy with a couple of brothers, like in the other room. She moves to the table where we are, and she's trying to get me to, like, basically take her side, asking me what I think. And I'm just chilling. I have my whiskey, listening to music, talking occasionally, but I'm just chill. So I tell her I'm not going to get involved with it. So I guess she didn't like that answer, so she threw. It was like a glass on the table, and it had like that much water left in it, and she like threw it on me, and it went into my face. And I've always worked on my temper my whole life, and I'm a ministerial servant at this time, so she threw water in my face, and my first gut reaction is I want to get back at her, but I'm like, no, I'm gonna chill. And I told her, I was like, I cannot believe you just did that. I'm gonna let it slide. Like, just leave me alone. About 30 seconds later, I see her. She's just staring at me. She's fuming, and she reached, got another glass, and threw it on me. And that's like, I just got livid. When I get very mad, my hands start like trembling. So I got up from the table, went out in the backyard. The homeowner, we were close. He knew my story. He knew I always worked on my temper. And I just went out to the middle of the yard, and I stood there, and I'm just like looking up at the night sky. And he and another brother came out, and they both hugged me. And they were like, I don't even know how you restrained yourself. Like, man, I mean, he wouldn't let me go. And that meant a lot to me. So fast forward to the next day, I get a call um, from an elder, and he's the Kobe. In case I keep throwing that term out, in case anyone don't know what that means, it's an acronym for coordinator of the body of elders. So in a congregation, you have a body of elders, and then you have the coordinator. It doesn't mean like he's the president or anything. He just gets correspondence from the branch, and he plans the elders meetings, and he kind of makes sure the elders meeting run on time, and like they cover everything they're supposed to be talking about. That's all he is. So he called the next day, and he was like, hey, I heard what so and so did to you, and I want to apologize. um, if you could just like let that die down. She really feels horrible. She drank too much. She's a pioneer, by the way. She drank too much. She just wants to apologize to you and move forward. Now, you may be wondering why Kobe would call me because of that situation. And it was because the pioneer in question who threw water in my face twice, that was his sister-in-law. And so he was asking me to keep it quiet, like accept her apology, and like, if I could just find it in me to move forward. His reasoning was because, he's the Kobe. He and his wife are pioneers. His sister-in-law is a pioneer, and it would look bad on all of them. Now, before I even talked to him, I had about 2 or 3 elders reach out to me throughout the day to see how I was doing, like to console me more or less. The news got around fast. I'm sure in every congregation, news gets around fast, but a couple were livid. they were like, oh yeah, something needs to be done. And yeah, later on, I got the call from her brother-in-law, who's the Kobe, who said it would just make everybody look bad. And see, he said that because that's a huge thing with them, is image. Like, no witness wants to look bad to other people. And I let it die down. After I talked to him, she reached out to me. I told her I accept her apology, and all I said was, please, in the future, keep in mind that you don't know what people have worked on their whole life, like what their struggles may be. I said, particularly mine, one of them, it's been my temper, working on anger issues. And I told her it took a lot out of me not to react the way that I wanted to. Like, to do what I wanted to do when she threw water in my face, not once, but twice. She said she, fully understood. Um, and I didn't want to talk to her anymore. Like, I was done. But that left a bad taste in my mouth, though. Especially when you had calls for complaint. And other elders telling you had cause for complaint and something needed to be done with her. A matter of fact, like a week later, I was at a meeting, and one of those elders that was upset came up to me, and he was like, "Hey, like whatever happened with all like that situation? Because I've been expecting to hear something like body wide as an elder group, but I haven't heard anything yet." And I was like, "Oh, you won't?" He's like, "What do you mean?" And I told him, Kobe called me the next day and told me to basically just accept her apology and move on. And yeah, that elder, he was even more livid. But that's just more of an insight to how they think to protect their image. A narcissist always want to protect their image. They want to protect how people view them, how other people look at them, and that's part of it. Um, it's just bad in that organization as far as narcissists go. And I'm an equal opportunity kind of person. There are women in that organization that are narcissists as well, and it turned me off. It turned my wife off, just about how they are and how they treat you. We never felt like we had any true friends when we were in that cult. And that's sad when you're repeatedly fed week in and week out about what qualities we're supposed to be displaying. When in your head you know how you're being treated, and you hear them on the stage, doing this song and dance, and you just, when you see it how it really is, it just leaves a bad taste in your mouth, because you really know how it truly is. And then it's hard for you. It was hard for me to talk to other people about it in a positive light. Like if I'm out in the film industry, and you have people asking you about, if I come visit, how the congregation be, and it puts you in a bad situation, to where you have to like speak so positively about an organization that sucks. And that was the hard thing about being PMO as well, because I went PMO in May of 2023. But I couldn't get out, so of course I'm doing like the ministry and stuff like that. I'm always multitasking. Yeah, so that is just something. That's what I was telling my friends today online. That's one of the major things about the organization, that it is a breeding ground for narcissists. So if you're thinking about studying, or you are studying with a Jehovah's Witness, uh, those, like what I've talked about today, is seriously things you need to think about, things you need to consider. The average witness won't tell you that. Like I said, they want to put their best foot forward. But that is something that is very real, that you have to be aware of, that's taking place. And, if you're a PMO for whatever reason and you still have to go to meetings and assemblies, like, my heart goes out to you, because I was you. I had to go before I totally walked away at the end of last year. And to mingle with people that you can't stand, some you detest, it's hard. So yeah, I take my hat off to the PMOs as well. And if you're new, PMO is an acronym for physically in, mentally out. For whatever reason, you still have to go to meetings or attend, but mentally you've checked out. So I try to make my information so that everyone can benefit. Like I said, it's people that might be studies, or people that may be considering studying. I have people message me sometimes each week saying they're thinking about studying. Somebody wants to get them to study, but they're not sure. They appreciate my videos because I'm telling the truth, and that's why I do what I do, so that people can have a fighting chance to make an informed decision. So yeah, I wanted to get that off my chest. I've spoken on it a little bit, but not to this extent. I've been working so many things out and talking about other things. So I was like, it was the perfect time to get that off my chest about what I think about narcissists in the Jehovah's Witness organization and elders and all that jazz. But yeah, I hope you do get a chance to visit me on one of my social media platforms. Like I said, I go by the handle XJDub, EXJDUB. Plug that in on Facebook or Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, Reddit, and I'll pop up. Don't forget about the private Facebook group, VXJW Network. Also have the website, vxjwnetwork.org, with the private discussion forum for us to just talk and be ourselves and feel safe and loved. So, yeah, big things will continue to happen. I appreciate all my listeners wherever you're at. I am getting so much love from around the world, and it's nice that so many are listening and can see for themselves what type of organization that is. And so, as an ex-Jehovah's Witness, we have the freedom to explore what we want to with an open mind. We're not under that high control anymore. So if you're an ex-Jehovah's Witness, I applaud you. There will be deconstruction time that we all go through, an unspecified amount of time where we just have to get everything that's been crammed into our heads out of it. It's a whole new way of life. It's wonderful. I'm happy. I'm glad to see my family truly happy and express themselves. So, yeah, if you need to reach out to me, leave a comment, private message me, or email me. My email is xjdub1@gmail.com. So EXJDUB, the number one, at gmail.com. So I hope you have a great day and finish the week out strong. You know, just keep your head up, whatever you're doing. Believe in yourself and what you're doing, and like we can do anything if we put our minds to it and stay positive and keep a great mindset. So until next time, go and do great things.